When my son looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't welcome in his home for Christmas, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I smiled. A cold, quiet smile that started deep in a place I thought had died years ago. I got in my car, and I made one single phone call. By the new year, the $2,800 monthly mortgage payments I'd been making for 5 long years, stopped, vanished. But that, my friends, was just the first move in a game they didn't even know we were playing. Justice had to be restored. Their arrogance had to be punished. And you will not believe what I did next. Stay with me. If you've ever been taken for granted by family, ever been treated like a walking wallet instead of a person, ever been made to feel less than in your own child's eyes, then you know the cold, hollow ache I'm talking about. Hit that like button right now if you believe enough is enough. Subscribe to the channel for more stories where the quiet ones finally roar. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from. This one is personal. Let me take you back. A week before Christmas. Spokane, Washington. I'm Dennis Flores. 62 years old. My wife, Maria, my heart, has been gone 8 years. Since then, my entire world narrowed down to one person, my son, Michael, and his wife, Isabella. That night, I was sitting on their impossibly soft leather sofa I'd signed for, by the wind their beautiful living room in Kendall Yards. The air was warm, thick with the scent of those expensive vanilla candles Isabella loves. A 12-foot Christmas tree twinkled, each light reflecting off the marble coffee table, the one I'd helped them pick out. I could see into the kitchen, to the professional-grade, stainless steel KitchenAid mixer on the counter. A $2,000 ornament from her holiday baking phase. Used twice. Paid for by me. I tried to bridge the growing silence between me and my son. I could make my famous turkey this year, I said, my voice sounding too loud in the quiet room. The one with the sage stuffing. Your mother. She used to say it was better than her own grandmother's. I saw Michael's face change. Not into a smile, but a wince. He shifted on the couch, his shoulders curling inward like he was trying to make himself smaller. The light caught his wedding ring. Dad, he said, and he couldn't look at me. His gaze was fixed on that shiny table. Unfortunately, you won't be welcome here for Christmas. The words didn't make sense at first. They just hung there in the perfumed air. I actually blinked, thinking I'd misheard. What do you mean? Why wouldn't I be welcome? My own voice sounded distant. Michael finally looked up, but his eyes were empty, just panicked. Isabella's parents are coming, and they'd prefer if you weren't here. They'd prefer, not we, they. My own son was telling me his in-law's preference was law in a house I'd helped buy. My hands, resting on my knees, went cold. A deep bone-chill cold. It's just easier this way, Dad, he mumbled, his voice getting smaller. You know how her family is about traditions. They have their own way of doing things. I looked around. I saw the silk curtains I'd paid for when Isabella complained the neighbors could see in. I saw the hardwood floors that came from the second mortgage on my house. I saw the crown molding that had maxed out my last credit card. Every single inch. My fingerprints were on it all. My sacrifice, my love, and now it was their way. And what way is that, Michael? I asked, my voice low. He flinched. Dad, please, don't make this harder. Where will I spend Christmas, then? The question came out quiet, almost a whisper. He looked like I'd struck him. Maybe. You could visit Aunt Rosa. Or we could do something the weekend after. The weekend after, like Christmas was a dental cleaning. An inconvenient appointment to be rescheduled. My knees cracked as I stood up. 8 years of carrying this family alone. I see, I said. He started to say, Dad, wait, but I was already walking, past the gallery of family photos on the wall, where my face got smaller and more distant in each successive frame. Past the coat closet overflowing with Isabella's designer jackets. My hand found the doorknob. Solid. Cold. I didn't turn around. Son, I said to the closed door behind me. Tell Isabella's parents. Feliz Navidad. The December air outside hit me like a slap. Clean. Cold. Honest. Behind me, I heard the front door open. Dad, Michael called out. One time. Then the soft, final click of the latch. That sound. It was the period at the end of the sentence of our old relationship. I sat in my old truck, the engine off, watching the Christmas lights twinkle in the windows of all the warm houses. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably Michael, already wanting to smooth it over with weak apologies and weaker promises. I didn't look. I turned the key and drove away from the glowing palace I'd built for a king who had just banished me. The heater hummed as I drove through the familiar streets of South Hills. Every corner held a ghost of the man I used to be. The man who believed family was everything. The man who wouldn't give his last dollar to see his son smile. That man was a fool. I stopped at a red light on 29th and Grand. In the next lane, a young father was loading brightly wrapped presents into his SUV. His kids had their faces pressed against the window, their breath fogging the glass with pure, giddy excitement. That was us once, Michael and me. Before Isabella. Before I became just a walking ATM with inconvenient emotions. And then, as I drove, the numbers came. Unbidden, unwanted, a brutal accounting, $2,800, every month for 5 years. My own calculator had given up last spring when I finally added it all up, $168,000. Just in mortgage payments. That's not counting the $47,000 down payment from refinancing my home, mine and Maria's. Not counting the second mortgage I took when Michael lost his job. Just temporary, Dad, he'd said. Isabella had stood behind him, a $700 purse on her shoulder, nodding with a sympathy that never reached her eyes. My desperation, it turned out, was worth exactly nothing to them. I pulled into my own driveway. The concrete was cracked. I couldn't afford to fix it because every spare cent went to their perfect life. The porch light flickered another repair, on the endless list. Inside, the house was silent, hollow. It still smelled faintly of Maria's perfume in the hall closet, a ghost I couldn't bear to let go. And then, as if on cue, my phone rang. The screen flashed, Isabella. Perfect. I'd been waiting 5 years for this conversation. I let it ring 3 times. On the 4th, I answered. Dennis. Her voice was that special blend of fake sugar and barely veiled impatience, the asking for money voice. I heard about the little misunderstanding with Michael. Misunderstanding? I leaned against my chipped kitchen countertop, still in my coat. I don't think there's any misunderstanding. Isabella, you made your position quite clear. Look, she sighed, and I could hear shopping bags rustling in the background. Probably spending what should have been their mortgage payment. I know it seems harsh. But you have to understand my parents. They're very traditional. They expect a certain atmosphere during the holidays. A certain atmosphere, I repeated, my voice flat. Yes, she said, as if explaining to a child. They're not used to your kind of cooking. All that spicy Mexican food and loud music. And frankly, Dennis, they're educated people. They expect conversations about current events, literature, art. You know, the words landed, each one a separate, precise puncture. 8 years of biting my tongue. Of swallowing comments about my accent. Of pretending not to see her nose wrinkle at my working-class hands. My kind of cooking, I said, my voice dangerously calm. You mean the food you ate every Sunday for 3 years when money was tight? The tamales, you said, reminded you of your own grandmother. That was different, she snapped, the sweetness evaporating. We were appreciative then. But now, with my parents, it's just not appropriate. Ah, I said. So now with your parents, you can't have the Mexican peasant embarrassing you at the fancy dinner table. Don't be dramatic, Dennis. This isn't about race. It's about class. My father graduated summa cum laude from Washington State. My mother speaks 4 languages. They summer in the Hamptons. What exactly would you contribute? Stories about laying tile. A heat, fierce and bright, flooded my chest, but I kept my voice steady. Steel, I built a business from nothing after Maria's father died. I've employed over 50 people in this town. I've paid more in taxes some years than your father made in his best year. But you're right. Money isn't everything. Exactly, she said, missing the ice in my tone. Breeding matters. Education matters. And frankly, Maria understood her place better than you understand yours. Silence. A roaring, white noise silence in my head. She'd crossed a line that didn't just exist in sand, but in stone. What did you just say about my wife? I'm just saying she knew how to blend in. She didn't make waves. She understood that some spaces, weren't meant for her. My hand clenched the phone so tightly, I thought the plastic might crack. Maria had more class in her little finger than your entire bloodline will ever possess. She actually laughed. A short, ugly sound, oh please. She was a house cleaner who got lucky. At least she had the good sense to stay quiet about it. Isabella, I said. And my voice dropped into a register I didn't recognize. Low. Final. I want you to listen very carefully. This conversation is over. We are done pretending to be family. You can't just, we're done. I ended the call. placed the phone gently on the counter. My hands were steady. Remarkably steady. The air in my kitchen felt different, lighter, cleaner, as if a toxic fog had been lifted. I walked to the desk in the corner. From the bottom drawer, I pulled out the thick manila folder I'd been avoiding for months. The one labeled finances in Maria's neat handwriting. Time to stop the bleeding. I spread the documents across my kitchen table. It looked like evidence from a crime scene, because the victim was me. 5 years of bank statements, each one marked with the same automatic withdrawal. $2,800. Vanishing from my account on the 15th of every month like clockwork. A paper trail of my own love, my own stupidity. I did the math again, slowly. Year 1, $33,600. That was the year I stopped taking my fishing trip. Year 2, another $33,600. That was the year I started buying store brand everything. Year 3, 4. By year 5, I was eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch 3 days a week to make it work. $168,000. Gone. And that was just the mortgage, not the down payment. Not the new roof they desperately needed. Not the landscaping for curb appeal. Not the furniture that just didn't work with their new style. Maria's life insurance money. The retirement fund we'd scraped together for 30 years. The college fund we'd started for grandchildren I would apparently never be allowed to see. All of it, poured into a beautiful, hollow shell of a house where I wasn't good enough to eat a holiday meal. My phone felt heavy in my hand. I scrolled past Michael's name, past Isabella's, and found the number for my bank. The automated system greeted me politely in English and Spanish. How accommodating. A real person answered. Customer service. This is Jennifer. How can I help you? I need to cancel an automatic transfer, I said. My voice was steady. It was the steadiest it had been in years. Certainly, sir. I'll need your account number and some verification information. I gave it to her. All the numbers that quantified my life. I could almost hear her typing. I see the transfer you're referring to, Mr. Flores. $2,800 monthly to Wells Fargo. Account ending in 7,423. How long have you been making this transfer? 5 years. The words were bitter on my tongue. And you want to cancel it? Effective immediately. I looked around my kitchen. At the stove with the broken burner. At the wall where the paint was peeling. At the window that whistled in the winter wind because I'd spent my home maintenance fund on their crown molding. Effective immediately, I confirmed. Done. The transfer has been cancelled. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, I said. The word felt clean. Powerful. No, that's everything. I hung up. The silence in the house was profound. Outside, the December darkness was complete, but the Christmas lights in my neighbor's windows seemed warmer now. For the first time in 5 years, I would not be poorer on the 15th of the month. For the first time since Maria died, I could afford to fix my porch light. Buy a steak. Breathe. I gathered all the statements, the loan papers, the receipts, a 5-year monument to my martyrdom. I didn't need a shrine anymore. I walked to the fireplace, struck a match, and held it to the corner of the first page. The flame caught, greedy and bright. I fed the fire every last piece of evidence. It burned warm on my face. Warmer than I'd felt in a long, long time. My phone buzzed on the table. A text. Probably Michael. Maybe Isabella needing money for something essential. I didn't look. I went to the cupboard and pulled out the bottle of good scotch. I'd been saving for a special occasion. I poured 2 fingers into a glass. I raised it first to Maria's photograph on the mantel, her smile forever frozen in time. Then I raised it to the empty room, to the ghost of the man I was leaving behind in the ashes. Merry Christmas to me, I said to the quiet, and I meant it. The next morning, the sunlight through my kitchen window felt different, cleaner. I made coffee the good Colombian blend. I could finally afford and didn't once calculate how much would be left after the 15th. The freedom tasted better than the coffee. At exactly 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. Isabella. The audacity was breathtaking. Dennis, her tone was all business, that impatient clip back in place. I need you to pick up my parents from Spokane Airport. Their flight from Portland arrives at 2 p.m. I set my mug down carefully. Isabella, did you forget about our conversation yesterday? Look, whatever that was about, we need to focus on practical matters now. My parents need transportation, and you're the only one with time during the day. I almost laughed. Less than 24 hours after telling me I wasn't worthy of her table, I was being conscripted as their chauffeur. And you're asking me because that's what family does, Dennis, they help each other. Her voice sharpened, then it dropped, low and contemptuous. Besides, let's be honest here. You're not my rival. You're too weak to be my rival. So just get in your truck and pick them up. There it was. The naked truth. Finally, I wasn't family. I wasn't even a worthy opponent. I was a weak old man, a servant, a tool. What airline? I asked, my voice quiet, neutral. Alaska Air, Flight 447. They'll be at baggage claim, Carousel 3. She paused. And Dennis, they're expecting someone who can handle their luggage properly. Don't embarrass us. I could hear her nails tapping on that granite countertop, the one my credit card bought. Click, 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 wear something decent. Maybe that blue shirt from Michael's graduation. The line went dead. No, please. Certainly no, thank you. I looked at the clock. 10:52 a.m. Flight at 2 p.m. I poured myself another cup of coffee. Added a spoonful of sugar, a small luxury. I pulled yesterday's newspaper toward me and found the crossword puzzle I'd abandoned. 7 across. Delayed gratification. 12 letters. I smiled a small, private smile. The answer would come to me. At 2:15 p.m., I was not on the road to the airport. I was settling into my favorite armchair with a fresh cup of Earl Grey tea. The Sunday edition of the paper was in my lap. The completed crossword from yesterday sat on the coffee table. The answer to delayed gratification was postponement. My phone buzzed on the side table. Isabella. I watched it ring until it stopped. The December sun slanted through the window, painting a warm rectangle on the floor where I'd spent so many lonely evenings worrying about their bills. Today, the silence wasn't lonely. It was earned. It was intentional. 2:47 p.m. The phone buzzed again. A text preview flashed. Dad, where are you? My parents are. I turned the phone face down. By 3:30 p.m., it had buzzed 6 times. I finished the sports section. The Seahawks had lost. Some things were constant. I brewed another pot of tea. I started organizing the junk drawer in the kitchen, a task I'd put off for years. It was amazing what you could accomplish when you weren't rushing to serve people who saw you as staff. At 3:45, a call from an unknown number. Probably her parents, using a stranger's phone at the airport. I let it ring. Outside, my neighbor was hanging Christmas lights. His kids were running in the yard, screaming with joy. A normal family. No one was stranded. No one was waiting on a servant who had resigned. For 15 p.m. The barrage began. My phone started ringing and didn't stop. Isabella, unknown number. Isabella. The buzzing was angry, persistent, like a trapped hornet. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and unplugged the landline from the wall with a satisfying pull. Then I held down the power button on my cell phone until the screen went black. Perfect silence. I made a grilled cheese sandwich. Thick-cut cheddar on sourdough. Heated up a can of tomato soup. Comfort food I hadn't allowed myself because grocery money was for subsidizing their lifestyle. The cheese melted into a perfect golden crust. The soup steamed. Outside, the winter sun was already dipping low, casting long, blue shadows across my backyard. Somewhere across town, 3 very entitled people were standing in an airport parking garage, probably arguing about Uber fares, their designer luggage at their feet, wondering how their elderly Mexican chauffeur had the audacity to strand them. The thought made the soup taste even better. By 5 p.m., I'd eaten, cleaned up, and was considering a movie. An entire evening to myself. No emergency calls for money. No last-minute favors. It was a foreign, beautiful feeling. I was reaching for the remote when the pounding started on my front door. Not a knock, a violent, frantic, frame-rattling pounding that announced pure, undiluted fury. I set my tea down, walked slowly to the door. The pounding intensified with each step. Bam, bam, bam. Through the peephole, I saw 3 distorted figures crowding my small porch. Wolves at the door. I turned the deadbolt, opened it. Cody Jenkins's face, red and twisted with rage, was inches from mine. What the hell is wrong with you? He shouted, not waiting for an invitation, pushing past me into my living room. We waited at that goddamn airport for over 3 hours. Catherine followed, her usually perfect blonde bob disheveled, her lips a thin bloodless line of hatred. This is completely unacceptable behavior from someone your age, Dennis. Absolutely barbaric. Isabella brought up the rear, her makeup smeared, her expensive wool coat wrinkled. You humiliated us. She spat. Do you have any idea what you've done? My parents had to take a $40 taxi. I let the door swing shut behind them. I didn't move from my spot. Get out of my house. I said. My voice cut through their shouting like a knife through silk. They stopped, stunned by the sheer command in it. Cody's face went from red to purple. Excuse me, you don't get to make demands here, buddy. Not after what you pulled today. This is my house, I said, quiet, firm. And I want you out. Now. Catherine stepped forward, dripping the condescension she'd perfected over a lifetime. Dennis, you clearly don't understand the magnitude of your mistake. My husband has connections throughout this city. Business connections. Social connections. You can't treat people like us this way, and expect— This was a lesson, I interrupted, meeting her icy gaze without blinking. A lesson about your excessive arrogance and your poor treatment of people you consider beneath you. Isabella's mouth fell open. A lesson. Who do you think you are to teach anyone anything? You're nobody. I'm someone who finally stopped being your personal bank account and taxi service. I stepped aside and held the door open wide. The lesson is over. You can leave. Cody jabbed a finger toward my chest, stopping just short of touching me. You have no idea who you're messing with, old man. I've been in this town longer than you've been breathing its air. I know people. Important people. People who can make your life very, very difficult. Is that a threat, Mr. Jenkins? It's a promise. His voice dropped to a vicious whisper. You think abandoning elderly people at an airport is something you can just do? You're about to learn exactly how wrong you are. Catherine nodded, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. Indeed, actions have consequences, Dennis, and yours will be quite, public. Isabella grabbed her father's arm. Daddy, let's just go. This pathetic old man isn't worth our time. They filed out, a parade of wounded pride. But Cody turned on the threshold, pointing that finger again. You'll regret this. I guarantee it. I closed the door, turned the deadbolt. The solid click was the most satisfying sound I'd heard all day. Through the window, I watched them pile into a rental car, still arguing, and speed away into the twilight. The house felt cleaner, as if their presence had left a greasy film on the air. But Cody's words echoed. Public consequences. Important people. Connections. For the first time, a thread of cold concern wove through my anger, but it was drowned out by something stronger, hotter. Anticipation. They'd declared war. And they had no idea who they were fighting. 3 days later, I was enjoying my morning coffee, flipping through the Spokane Review. And there I was, staring back at myself from page 3. The headline, Spokane businessman abandons elderly couple at airport during holiday storm. My hands went still. The mug felt suddenly heavy. It was an old photo from my company website. Below it, a story that made my blood run cold and then boil. Asterisk Cody and Catherine Jenkins, visiting their daughter for Christmas, were left stranded at Spokane International Airport for over 4 hours Sunday when family member Dennis Flores failed to appear for a prearranged pickup. The couple, both in their late 50s, waited in frigid temperatures as a winter storm warning was issued for the region. We couldn't believe someone would just abandon us like that, said Cody Jenkins, a retired banking executive. We called repeatedly, but Mr. Flores never answered his phone. We were forced to take an expensive taxi in dangerous weather conditions. At our age, this kind of treatment is not just inconsiderate, it's dangerous. Asterisk. The article went on, quoting concerns about my erratic behavior and mental state. Cody had painted a masterpiece. They were helpless elderly tourists. I was a cruel, unstable monster. A blizzard that never was. A downpour of lies. No mention of the Christmas ban. No context of the money. Just pure, calculated character assassination. The byline, Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor. I didn't know her, but I knew the game. Cody had called in a favor. Used his connections. In a city like Spokane, reputation is currency, and he'd just set fire to mine. A grudging respect curdled in my gut. This wasn't a tantrum, this was strategy. They'd escalated. They'd gone nuclear. I folded the paper carefully, set it aside. The anger was still there, but it was changing, cooling, hardening into something useful, resolve. This wasn't about an airport pickup anymore, or a Christmas dinner. This was about survival. This was about winning. I got my laptop, opened it. The glow illuminated my determined face in the dim morning light. Time to research. Cody Jenkins, Catherine Jenkins, Isabella Flores. I fell down the rabbit hole of their digital lives. Social media profiles became my battlefield maps. Cody, retired First National Bank manager, Spokane Country Club, treasurer of the Inland Northwest Business Leaders Association, A man of influence with a polished, respectable facade. A man with a lot to lose. Catherine's Instagram, a curated museum of privilege. Charity galas, wine tastings in Napa, vacation photos from Lake Coeur d'Alene, #blessed, #grateful. Every like a tribute to a lifestyle built, in part, on my drained bank account. Isabella's Facebook, so in love with our dream home. Photo of the kitchen I paid for. Check-ins at expensive restaurants from months when I'd covered their utilities. A post from last week, so excited to host Christmas dinner. Can't wait to show off our hosting skills. The word was a slap, but the jackpot was Michael's LinkedIn. Recent activity, connected with Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor, Spokane Review. Bingo, the connection, the source. They'd gotten sloppy. I leaned back. They'd made 3 critical mistakes. 1. They underestimated me completely. 2. They went public, which meant I could go public. 3. They documented their entire beautiful, hypocritical life online. A digital catalog of their arrogance and my funding. This was amateur hour. And I was a professional. I opened a new document. I didn't draft a rebuttal to the newspaper. I created a timeline. A story told in numbers and receipts. I pulled every file, every statement. Item, home equity loan statement. $47,000. Their down payment. Item, credit card bill. $18,422. Kitchen renovation. Granite countertops. Item, 60 bank statements. Each $2,800 transfer, highlighted in glaring yellow. $168,000. Item, receipts for furniture, for a new water heater, for property taxes I'd covered. Total, $237,468. $250,000. More than I'd spent on myself in a decade. I hit print. The worry of the printer was the sound of ammunition being manufactured. I downloaded photos from their social media, the jewelry, the vacations, the fancy dinners, and printed them too. Physical proof of where the money went. I took the newspaper article and, with a red pen, annotated it like a teacher grading a failing paper. Next to frigid temperatures, lie, 52 and sunny. Next to elderly tourists, lie. In-laws coming to dinner I was banned from. Next to erratic behavior, context. After 5 years and $237,000 in support, was told I wasn't class enough for Christmas. I made 12 copies of everything. One for each guest at their Christmas Eve dinner, according to Isabella's Facebook event. I looked at my wall calendar. December 24th was circled. Not for Christmas. For justice. Christmas Eve morning was gray and cold. The kind of day that makes you grateful for a warm house. I wouldn't be welcome in theirs. I had other plans. I laid out my evidence like a lawyer prepping for the trial of the century. Bank statements organized by year. Photos stacked, the annotated newspaper articles on top. I dressed with care. My best suit, the navy one I'd worn to Maria's funeral. It felt right. I was burying the old dentist today. At 6:30 p.m., I loaded my briefcase. It was satisfyingly heavy. I drove to Kendall Yards. Their house was a beacon of warm light, laughter spilling out into the street. Cars filled the driveway. Through the big front window, I could see figures moving in the dining room. Isabella, playing the flawless hostess in the castle my money built. I parked across the street. Waited, 6:45 p.m. Perfect, they'd be seated. First course, served. No easy escape. I walked up the path. The front door was predictably unlocked. Isabella loved to boast how safe their neighborhood was. I slipped inside. The warm, fragrant air hit me, along with the clink of glasses and the murmur of conversation. Double quotes. But darling, that's not how we do things in our family. Catherine's voice carried, followed by polite laughter. Our family. The words were gasoline on the last embers of my hesitation. I walked straight into the dining room. 12 faces turned toward me. The laughter died in midair. Isabella froze, a crystal wineglass halfway to her lips. Michael's face went sheet white. Cody and Catherine looked as if they'd seen a vengeful ghost. Good evening, everyone, I said, my voice calm, clear, and carrying. I set my briefcase on their marble sideboard with a solid thud. I hope you don't mind me joining your celebration. Isabella was the first to find her voice, a strangled squeak. Dennis, this is completely inappropriate. You need to leave. Immediately. Actually, I said, clicking open the briefcase latches. The sound was loud in the silent room. I think your guests deserve to know who really paid for this dinner. For this house. For the very lifestyle you're all here to admire. I pulled out the first stack of bound packets. A woman I didn't recognize, one of Catherine's pearl-clad friends, leaned forward, intrigued. What is he talking about? Isabella. He's having some kind of episode. Isabella stammered. Michael, do something. But I was already moving around the long table, placing a packet in front of each person. Bank records, I said conversationally. 5 years of financial support. $168,000 in mortgage payments alone, plus the down payment. The renovations. The furniture. Everything you see around you. The room was utterly silent except for the rustle of expensive paper as 12 people began to read. I watched their faces. Confusion first, then slow dawning comprehension, then shock. A man in a cashmere sweater held up a bank statement, his finger tapping on a highlighted line. Isabella, ... Is this true? $2,800 a month. From your father-in-law. It's more complicated than that, she blurted, her composure cracking. He volunteered. We never asked. Actually, I said, pulling the newspaper article from my briefcase. Let's talk about what you did ask for, and what you told the press about me when I stopped giving it. I placed copies of the article on the table. I saw guests' eyes widen in recognition. The temperature in the room plummeted. Mr. Jenkins here, I said, pointing at Cody, whose face had gone from red to a sickly gray, used his banking connections to plant this story. Notice how I'm the villain. Abandoning poor, elderly people in a blizzard. I looked at the gray-haired man. It was 52 degrees and sunny that day. And they weren't tourists. They were the in-laws coming to the Christmas dinner I was explicitly banned from attending because my Mexican peasant energy would ruin the atmosphere. Catherine finally found her voice, a thin, reedy sound. That's not we never said. You never said what? Catherine. I pulled out my phone, scrolled, and held it up. A screenshot of Isabella's text. My parents are used to a certain class of conversation, not spicy food and mariachi music. You never said I was an embarrassment. You never said my late wife, Maria, knew her place as a house cleaner. A gasp went around the table. The pearl-clad woman stared at Catherine, horrified. Catherine, surely you didn't. He's twisting everything. Cody blustered, but his voice lacked all its former power. This man has mental issues. Financial problems. Financial problems. I almost laughed. Mr. Jenkins, I've been supporting your daughter and son-in-law to the tune of nearly $3,000 a month for 5 years. The only financial problem here is the one you're facing now that the tap is turned off. I addressed the whole table. These people have taken almost $250,000 from me while mocking my background, excluding me from my own family, and when I finally stood up for myself, they tried to destroy my reputation in the newspaper you all read. Michael spoke for the first time, his voice a broken whisper. Dad, ... I didn't know about the newspaper. I swear. Your wife knew, I said quietly, not unkindly. And her parents orchestrated it. They turned me into a monster for refusing to be an ATM and a chauffeur anymore. The social earthquake was happening in real time. I could see it, the shifting alliances, the dawning disgust, the embarrassment of having been played for fools. The elegant fiction of Cody and Catherine's perfect world was crumbling before their eyes. In front of their most important audience, an older gentleman, someone who looked like he played golf with Cody, shook his head, pushing the packet away as if it were contaminated. Cody, how could you? Taking this man's life savings and then trying to publicly ruin him for having enough. It's not that simple. Cody pleaded, but the fight was gone. It's very simple. The man said, you're a bully. And a thief. And you used your daughter to do your dirty work. Isabella made one last, desperate grab. Everyone, please. This is a private family matter that's gotten out of hand. No, I said, my voice final, absolute. It stopped being private when you made it front-page news. I wanted you all to know the truth. The next time you read about Dennis Flores, it won't be their lies. It'll be this story. Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It's the last one I'll be paying for. I closed my briefcase, snapped the latches shut. The sound was like a judge's gavel. I straightened my tie, gave a small, polite nod to the room full of stunned faces, and walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Behind me, I heard it begin, not silence, but an uproar. Voices rising in accusation, in shock, in betrayal. The sound of a carefully constructed world imploding. It was, without a doubt, the most beautiful Christmas music I had ever heard. The letter came in March. Certified mail. Notice of default. Final demand for payment. 3 months missed. $8,400 overdue. Foreclosure proceedings, imminent. I set it next to my coffee and read the sports page. It was news from another country. Not my problem. The calls had been constant for weeks. Desperate. Hysterical. Isabella blocked. Cody and Catherine, silenced. Even Michael, I let his calls go to voicemail, curious how long his pride would hold out. The answer, 97 days. He came on a Thursday evening. He looked 10 years older. His expensive suit was wrinkled, dark circles bruising his eyes. If this story of calculated, cathartic payback gave you that rush of vindication, if you believe that no one should be treated as an ATM with inconvenient feelings, then do 3 things for me. 1. Smash that like button, it fuels this channel. TWO. Subscribe and hit the bell because we serve up justice stories every single day. And 3. Comment below. Have you ever had to cut off a toxic family member? What's your ultimate revenge fantasy? I read every single one. Now, click the video on screen for another story about a revenge plot so clever, it'll have you cheering out loud. Thanks for watching.